Oh man, there's nothing like recording a 30-minute video only to realize that your microphone, for some reason, was not working. So, we'll try it again. How is everybody doing? I hope y'all have a wonderful time. Don't kill yourselves over this small sell off. As I was saying in the last video, we've been 7 weeks straight up, having a few days selling off is healthy. What you don't want to see is like what we had been seeing and pretend that this isn't there, right? This is what we don't want to see because that makes pulling back aggressively a lot higher likely option, right? But now that we've had 2 weeks of selling off and we've come and swept all these lows, we're actually in pretty good shape. Now, that's not to say that we cannot continue selling off a bit lower, right? On the weekly time frame, okay, we have our resistance. We'll just do this from a top-down perspective, just like what we would do if this were on a 30-minute time frame. So we have this whole range now, right? We have resistance formed at 110,000, give or take, and you don't have support until 77,000, right? This is a massive fucking range. This is a gigantic fucking range. This is a 30% range. Right now, if we are bullish, the likelihood of coming all the way back down to 77,000 is very, very slim. However, that does not mean that we cannot pull back into the $96,000, $95,000 area before we get some support to show up. At the same time, if we don't break below this weekly low, say we've already put in the low, right? If this is already putting in the weekly low, which we've made today at $100,377, the only way that we're going to continue lower is if we wick up and then break this low, then we can continue pushing down. How far down we push, who knows? But for now, we'll just take this from a top-down perspective. On the weekly, this is what we're looking like. We got resistance here. On the daily, right? Okay, we have resistance there. We have some more resistance created here, which was the breakdown level, right? We broke down, boom, came back, retested the breakdown level, and rejected hard away from it. Okay, now we have come and swept all of this liquidity here. Boom. And we're waiting to see whether Bitcoin is going to break this low and continue pushing down. Maybe to this next support area here around 94, 95,000. That's about 94K, right? Okay, we got about 94,000 is where your next area of support is at. And no, it's not impossible that we trade all the way down there. But if you were looking at this on a lower time frame, right? If you were looking at this on like a 1 hour or 30-minute, what would you say? You would say, okay, well, we have broken this support. And now we have officially closed below it as we are starting the new trading day. We've officially closed below this support. Okay. So now we got to see, are we going to retest it, boom, and reject away and break this low and continue filling lower? Or are we going to push down, hold this low, and recover this 102,000 area? Right? That's pretty much the only two things you can be looking for. Okay? If we break below this low at $100,326, give or take a few dollars, if we break below this low, just like on a lower time frame, we have a clean run of candles all the way down to 94,200. Now, it's not to say that it's going to fill all of these candles. It may not. But you have a good range to trade should it break this low. What I'm not doing is trading right now in this wick. I'm not trading in this wick because there can be all kinds of fuckery that happens, right? I would need to see price break this low, and then you could continue pushing down, right? The fact that we have broken support here and closed pretty strongly below it, gives you a good indication, obviously, that selling pressure is on right now. So be mindful of that, right? It's okay to sell. It is okay to sell. If we are truly in a bull market, though, the selling won't last long, right? The sellers will exhaust. They should exhaust. If we are not truly in a bull market and say this is like the top back from when we were at 67K, right? If we're getting this same type of, exhaustion here on Bitcoin, where we pushed above highs and then we just couldn't make highs and we traded all the way back down to 16K, that's one thing, right? But in my opinion, what's the likelihood that we're going to get the exact same scenario here at 100,000 as we got at 67,000? Just not highly likely, in my opinion, right? So what I'm going to be waiting for is on the 4-hour drop down. Again, I'm not at this point. There's no point in taking sells. There's no point in taking sells at this point. We've already moved so far down. We're already down, 10%. It's a 6% move. It's a 6% move down in a day and a half, 2 days. Your most likely and most highly probable scenario in order to take a profitable trade now is to wait for some sort of support to be created. Okay? So we want to see support get created. Ideally, we get a strong candle, something like this, right? That would break these highs. And then you can wait for price to push down, create a wick, break this high, and then we have a higher probability of filling this. Essentially, it's an inefficiency, but filling this clean candle range. Okay. Or if you want to go short, or if you are in the mindset that we are going to continue selling, again, you'd want to see price push up, create support. Then you would want to see that support not be able to really move too much more, and then see a bearish candle get created. And then if you get a bearish candle that's created here, then you can say, okay, well, now if price wicks up and breaks below this low, then I can sell back down, right? Then I can sell. Because at that point, you have a higher probability of price going in your favor. If you create support and then you have a resistance candle forming while the trend is bearish, then you have a higher probability of the next candle breaking that low and continuing to push down and maybe fill all this wick, right? Until either of those scenarios happens, you just don't do anything, right? And I talked about this also. I just want to say I talked about this in one of my previous videos, probably like 2 or 3 videos ago, how Bitcoin has a tendency of creating highs and getting everybody really euphoric and then just fucking ranging forever, right? Who's to say how long that range lasts? If we're looking at something like XRP, which I know this is going to kind of go off topic a little bit, but XRP has literally been ranging for 6 months. Like, look at this. This is crazy. Since we pushed to new all-time highs, we've literally been ranging for 185 days, 6 months, almost 7. Right? So who's to say how long this range is going to last? Now, hopefully it doesn't last that fucking long. Right? I would hope that Bitcoin is not going to range for 6 months, but it could. There's no denying the possibility that it could. Right? But this is what I'm doing, what I'm looking forward to getting into a trade. I want to see, now that we've broken these areas of support, I want to see support be created around here without breaking this low. And if we can get support created, then I can go long for a sizable gain, right? Otherwise, there's nothing to do right now. We've already missed the move. If you miss this move, the way you deal with it is by sitting on your hands and waiting for something to develop that gives you a reason to enter a trade, right? So, yeah. Because at this point, you're chasing pennies, right? You know, the time to sell was up here when we had this bearish candle, this bearish engulfing form that took away a couple of bullish candles. Excuse me. Took away a couple of bullish candles and, you know, created support just like this. Create a support, then create a resistance, and then broke below that resistance, right? It's the same principle. It's exactly what we'd be looking for. Support to be created, and if it's going to continue higher, it'll break that bullish high and continue higher. If it's going to be bearish, it'll create resistance, and then you'll break that low and continue down. Very simple. Just keep it simple, right? That's all you got to do. Keep it as simple as possible. Until either of those scenarios happens, you just do nothing. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see, you know, Bitcoin trade at least towards 95, 96,000. It wouldn't surprise me necessarily, especially with this formation, right? This is definitely a BART formation. I wouldn't really call this a BART so much, but you know, you have your typical retail pattern of your head and shoulders, right? And we're breaking the neckline. To me, it's just too obvious. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so obvious that everybody's going to be pouring into shorts right here, and that would be the perfect time to squeeze higher, right? This would be something ideal. This would be ideal as a V-shaped recovery. You know, everybody that's selling down here is getting short retardedly, and then they all get fucked because we're in a bull market. And you don't short a bull market. I'm not saying there's not opportunities to short, but you just don't stay in it for very long, right? As you've seen, multiple times where prices sold off and just immediately reversed, and people are probably, you know, like, oh, this is a bearish engulfing. It's gonna go lower. It's gonna come all the way down and take out 100K. And what does it do? It says, "Fuck you. No, I'm not." Right. Yeah. Bullish or bearish engulfing, price is going to come all the way down to 100K. Fuck you. No, I'm not. So I'm under the I wouldn't say under the assumption, but my bias is leaning that we don't trade too much further lower than this. If we do, you know, towards 97K or something, would probably be decent, but I'm more in the camp that we're going to get a bounce around here. Maybe trade back up towards resistance. Right now, that's not to say that we're just going to, you know, come back up towards resistance and then boom, just blow through it. I don't think that either. But we could definitely trade up here, you know, before we get some more movement down. You know, it could be a range that looks something like this, right? That would create a double bottom if we were to get something like this, create a double bottom here. Could take that long. You know, I'm not going to predict what is going to happen because we never know exactly how it's going to look, but something like this would be ideal in my opinion. Right? Yeah, I just wouldn't be in a rush to short here is what I'm saying. Don't be in a rush to short. Don't be in a rush to long either. Wait for something to set up the way you want it to. Whether that's on the 4 hour, whether that's a 1 hour. If you're a scalper, you got to look for, or you got to decide what you want to see as a scalper. If you're a swing trader, you got to decide what you want to see as a swing trader, right? For me, I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for support to be created here, price to break that supports, break that bullish candle high and continue higher. Right? I'm not really looking to get short at this point. The time that would have been short would have been up here, or at the first breakdown, or up here once you, again, this is a good example too, right? This is a bullish candle. Well, if we were going to be bullish, we would have broke that bullish high, but no, we created a resistance candle, and then we got the resistance candle continue trading lower. Okay, so plenty of examples. You just got to study the charts, man. Know what you're looking for, and know what you'd be willing to execute on. All right. In my opinion, we probably get something that kind of just ranges here, and then we can get this trade go long, right? But as you can see, like, Bitcoin will consolidate for a long time. Like, look at this. Basically, all this time, it just did nothing, right? Just traded sideways, back and forth, until it squeezed lower and finally got the break. Okay, so just don't be in a rush. Like, price is not gonna leave without you unless, you're trying to short. At this point, price will probably leave without you. But it'll always give you an opportunity to enter, right? The entry is not the hard part. The hard part is knowing where you want to exit and where you're wrong. As long as you know where you want to exit and you also know where you would be wrong, you just have to find the right entry point for you, right? So yeah. So looking at Ethereum. Okay, take this back off. Ethereum has also just been consolidating, right? Just been a huge consolidation range here. After we had a massive move up from 1790, pushed all the way straight up to 2710. So now Ethereum could very easily, if Bitcoin were to push towards 97, 98K, something like that, you could get Ethereum definitely down below 2300 and maybe wick down and recover this 2300 area. But, at this point, again, it's a very strong bearish candle. I'm not saying that it can't continue lower, but I would just be hesitant, right? It is also Thursday. You're coming to the end of the week. It's the first week in June, right? And we have yet to break this consolidation. If you're looking on the weekly, we haven't broken consolidation. Until we break 2300 and about 2320, we're still in a consolidated phase. Okay. So what I'd want to see is, again, at this point, we're holding this area right here at 2383 as support. And now, if price were to get above I'll say on the 1 hour, if price were to get above 2440 and close above, then you have to say, okay, well, what is my range looking like? Well, now I have a huge range, right? I have a huge range to fill higher. It's a $135 range. It's a huge range. Okay. So I have a huge range to fill higher. Now you have to ask yourself, is it going to be easier to wait for this trade to take buys? Or is it going to be easier, to wait for sells to come in where, you have rejections here, you have rejections here, you have rejections here, You have consolidation here. You have rejections here, right? What is the easier trade going to be for you? What is the easier trade going to be for you? For me, the easier trade is going to be waiting for a clean break above 24.40 to go long, and I have a $135 range. All I got to do is get 20, 30 pips out of it. Even $20, $30, say if you want to call it $20, $30, whatever. You don't have to fill this entire range, but you can fill half of it and you can make a really good money on that. Right? I'm not interested in taking a short in an area where there's a lot of congestion. A lot of congestion. I want my trade to go in my favor and be as clean and easy as possible to get in that direction. And for me, that is breaking and closing above 24.40, allowing me to take a trade higher towards 25.81. And that's it. There's nothing else to do. Now, again, be mindful of the fact that we are coming up on the end of the week. So, it's unlikely that we're going to get any explosive moves tomorrow or especially over the weekend. More likely to just sit here and consolidate for a couple of days. And maybe Monday or Tuesday, we can get that move back up to fill this towards 2,600. And then maybe we can finally get ETH to quit being cancerous and break out of here towards 3,000. My bias still leans towards ETH recovering 3,000 before the end of the month. Maybe that's being optimistic. I know June is not typically your outsized gain month for crypto, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me to see ETH get back to 3K before the end of the month, right? So yeah, the name of the game is just waiting to see, or waiting for price to develop in a way that you would like to see it develop, and then executing on that trade. Okay? So yeah. I'm only gonna go over Bitcoin and ETH right now because really those are the only two coins that matter in my opinion. They're the only two assets that matter because everything is gonna follow along with them. ETH is gonna follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin leads the pack, and all of the altcoins follow ETH. So until ETH is giving a clear bullish signal, everything else is kind of just going to be lackluster, right? So, yeah. All right, man. I'm not going to hold y'all too long. Make it short and sweet. Just don't go chasing the trades this low at this point. We are running into support. Don't go chasing sells here. The time to sell was at the top of this range, not at the bottom. The bottom of the range is the time to look for buys. Until there's definitive and clear price action indicating that price is going to go lower. And at this point, we just don't have that. All right? So, yeah. All right, if you've made it to this point in the video, please do me a favor. Just hit the like button so we can get the video spread out to the YouTube world, so we get more eyes and ears on us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you never miss anything I have coming out for you guys. And yeah, man, we'll be back either Sunday or Monday, unless there's just something crazy that happens tomorrow, like we get a candle that just fucking takes back all of the gains or all of the losses from today, or all of the downside from today, I should say. There's nothing really going to be, worth talking about until sometime next week, right? All right, y'all. That's going to do it for me. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.